tradition. Feel so alive. Summer rhythms blend with a thrive. Go, 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 oh, shout it out loud. In the summer sun, we're a summer loving crowd. Talking Brazil ball, we're breaking it down. Bringing the passion from every town. Let the world be filled with love tonight. Sway to the beat.
Talking Brazil ball. Hello, welcome to another episode of Talking Brazil Ball. You might have seen there we've got a fancy new intro music. I don't know if it's really working, but you know, welcome back to another episode of Talking Brazil Ball. We're here to stay. Okay, well, welcome everybody anyway. Oh, hang on, this is a good bit. Well, anyway, that's the new Talking Brazil Ball soundtrack, theme song.
Yeah, absolutely, James. Yeah, it's let us know what you think about it.
Enough of that for now. Anyway, yes, welcome everybody. We got a bit carried away with the intro song there. So welcome back, another episode. That was, a heck of an entrance, George.
Yeah, well, there you go, James, isn't it? What do you reckon to that one? It's a bit catching fire, I think.
Talking Brazil Ball. Yeah, it's cool. Was that you singing that one?
Well, I'm not going to disclose who it was. It might have been. Maybe I can sing like that. Who knows?
Might have been one of those famous faces we've seen at the grounds this year.
Yeah, it could have been, couldn't it? It could have been. Yeah, perhaps we got people together and had a bit of a sing-song, you know. But it was, let us know what you think about that. Hello, James, and how are you doing? Another week, another episode, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been another good week, been another truncated week. Only seven games just to get stuck into. But yeah, a good start. We're going to try and work on that and get it a little bit clearer, the intro music for next time. But yeah, another good week. And what have you been up to, George?
Not a great deal, James, I must say, but just same old, really. You know, working, checking the football, just the usual. I mean, you've been away, haven't you, of course?
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, great to have a little break, week off work and got away to Europe, went to a couple of destinations, went to Freiburg in Germany and also got to Basel in Switzerland. So nice little break, little bit of no football on kind of to see, but took in a couple of good stadiums. So yeah, nice to have a bit of a break off, but back to it and been keeping an eye on things while I've been away. So we've again only 7 games to get into. George, do you want to just run through them, the results of the last match week just before we get into the kind of the meat of the show and look at the games of the week and everything? It felt like quite a subdued match week in some respects, but there were of course games going on. So do you want to let all the listeners know what went on in Matchday?
Yeah, again, as always, James, it'd be a pleasure to do so. Like you said, it was a shortened matchday week, 3 games postponed again because of the weather in Rio de Sul. So so it started on Saturday the 11th, Saturday night game, Flamengo 2, Corinthians 0, into Sunday, then Sunday evening, Atletico Go 0, Cruzeiro 1, Fortaleza 1, Botafogo 1, Palmeiras 0, Atletico Paranaense 2. Ferreira under real pressure now, I think. Bahia 1, RB Bragantino 0, Vasco da Gama 2, Vitória 1. And then in the early hours of this morning in England, Sao Paulo finished the match week with a 2-1 win against Fluminense. And that's it. Just 7 games, James, this week. 7 again next week, I think. as well. And just to note, I think we did quite well on our predictions this week. I think we got 2 correct scores each, actually, perfect scores each. So we both predicted Flamengo to win 2-0. I think you predicted. I can't remember which one it was actually, but I predicted the Vasco result correct as well. Might have been Bahia.
It doesn't matter. I mean, that's excellent because that's the one you're going to be covering later on. But just a word on the fixture list before we do get started. I mean, they have already postponed the 3 teams from the Rio Grande do Sul's games over next week. And not only that, but it does appear as though they've cancelled them for the following week as well. So I think until the 27th of May at the earliest, all 3 of Grêmio, Internacional and Juventude won't be playing. So once again, I mean, we sent thoughts out over the last show, just addressing the kind of the current disaster that is going on over there, and it still hasn't abated. Unfortunately, there's still people dying and there's still people missing. So it's a real terrible situation, and obviously the football doesn't matter a bit when things like that are going on. And I know it's actually even been more serious than just cancelling the 3 teams kind of involved games. I know that the CBF sent around a letter. I think it was this week, or maybe it was probably the end of last week, just asking. They're opening the debate about whether they should actually postpone the season. All levels of the Brazilian kind of pyramid, Serie A, B, C, D, as well as the women's game, whether they should pause it while things get back on track. It seems to the moment that isn't going to happen, but it seems to be a possibility still. So obviously we wish everybody out there all the best, and we hope that things can get sorted as soon as possible.
Absolutely, James. Of course, that's I echo those sentiments as well. Just though it just be our luck, you know what I mean. We're getting going with it, and then it all just stops. But like you said, there's more important things than football, and people's lives and livelihoods are at risk, and hopefully they can get it sorted really, quickly. It seems to have been going on for quite some time now, so. It's horrifying, really.
It is, and again, all our thoughts are with everybody out there involved and affected. But there were games on this week, and obviously, we one of them that we were going to cover was the kind of regional derby Juventude against Internacional. That didn't go ahead, so I instead looked at Sao Paulo against Fluminense, which, as George mentioned, was an excellent win for Sao Paulo. But before I do that, George, you were going to take a slightly different angle this week, weren't you, and look at the relegation battle that's kind of currently being formed, and that was a game between Vasco da Gama and Vitória. So what did you kind of notice during that game? What have your takeaways been from that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a massive win, like I said, James, for Vasco, really. And I think we sort of said last week, whoever wins this or whoever loses this, more to the point, is going to be in real trouble. And it looks like Vitória, I think we both predicted them to go down. And I don't see anything changing here, to be honest with you. Probably even if they won, to be fair, I don't think it would have changed much. They're really, really struggling. Took a little bit of time to get going this game, but obviously Vasco in the end won 2-1. 2 quick goals, one from Maicon and the second one from Vegetti. 5 minutes between the 2 goals, and then Vitória got one back just as the game was coming to a close. Although the same bloke, Castillo, scored Vitória's goal. He missed a sitter just a few minutes before, right in the middle of the goal, and a few yards out, he somehow smacked it against the bar. I don't know, it just seems their luck a little bit, really. They're not doing well. But I think Vasco, James, are looking like they're getting a new manager in, actually. I don't know if you've seen that at all.
Well, yeah, we touched on it last week that they'd sacked the manager the week before. I think it was just the week before, Ramon Diaz. I didn't see, as you said, I've been away. I haven't seen much of the news. Have they appointed a new manager yet?
So I was looking, and I think yesterday there was some news about, I think he's signed, but there isn't been anything official yet. You know, we know how it goes. It seems to be a little bit sort of behind in some ways, but apparently Alvaro Pacheco, who is managing in Portugal for Vitória de Guimarães, who have just qualified for the Europa League in Portugal. The season's nearly done there, just one game to go. They can't finish any lower than fifth, which is European not Europa League, it's the Europa Conference League qualification. But he's apparently signed a contract. I think it's a 1-year contract for Vasco. So just that news might be imminent now. But obviously they were out to impress the new coach. So I don't know if this had already come out, you know, on Sunday night when the game was being played. One thing to note, James, is how Dimitri Payet played in this game. 2 assists for him. He's 37 now, is Payet. Obviously, you know, well-travelled. He was a real fan favourite, I think, for West Ham when he was with them in the Premier League. And we know what his quality is. But he some really lovely assists, actually, on those. If you get a chance to have a look at them, it was, you know, a couple of kind of classic balls in, which were finished off, you know, by the lads that got the goals. But he as well, he did a bit of a rousing team talk, I think, after the game, which was translated by, I think, one of the goalkeeping coaches, Leo Hardim, who used to play for Monaco, and he's apparently fluent in French. So Payet obviously can't speak Brazilian by the look of it, and he translated a speech that went, you know, that he wanted to say in the dressing room afterwards. Something about, I was trying to find it, but I can't. Oh, he says, today we were not perfect, but we showed an exemplary state of mind. We attack together and defend together, so it's difficult to score against us. The goal we conceded was a concentration error. We need to be focused from the first minute to the last. We have to be proud of ourselves because today we honour our families and our mothers. So that's what he said after the game, apparently in like a huddle in the changing room. As he obviously, the new coach comes in, playing a bit better. Obviously, Vitória, their manager, he wasn't happy. He was bemoaning the fact that they've had to play such teams like Palmeiras and Sao Paulo, you know, very close together. But that's just, you know, what the league is now, isn't it? It's time after time. If you're coming up to Serie B from Serie B, it's difficult, and that's what he was saying. There's not so much. You know, there's a big gap between the two in terms of finances. I think he was trying to make the point of, and they're obviously struggling. They've 1 point from, I think, the 5 games, and I think amongst the sort of analysis, it was saying Vitória, they're not good enough yet for this kind of level, is what a lot of sort of journalists were saying. But back to Vasco, James. I mean, you'll like this. I think there's been like a campaign going around from the Vasco fans on X or Twitter, trying to get Phil Coutinho back to Vasco. And I think it's got quite a lot of signatures. So, yeah, the fans want him back. He's currently on loan, isn't he, in Saudi?
He's in Qatar.
Sorry, he's in Qatar, yeah. But, yeah, it's just gone. Yeah, it's just gone wrong a little bit for him. But I think he's going back to Villa in the summer. And I think, yeah, there's people sort of saying that he might be coming to Vasco. There's a big Twitter thing going, come back Coutinho, and that's a campaign which it's called on X. So Vasco look like they might be going within the better direction, James. You know, is the take home really from it, and I think they now sit in. I think they're in 13th position now, so they've really jumped up. A couple of places with that, although be it only 1 point above the relegation zone. But yeah, definitely positive for Vasco. Payet, you know, really played his part and showed his quality, and in the end was probably the difference between the two sides, really.
Yeah, I think he's had a bit of a quiet-ish time there, Dimitri Payet. I think he's oldish now, but he's not. Again, he's not particularly old for the Brasileirão, but he is. He hasn't turned it on. I don't think quite as Vasco fans probably hoped he would do. I mean, if the fans decided, if petitions, decided who they would be signing, then it'd be an absolute free for all, wouldn't it? But it'd be great to see Coutinho get back there because he has lost his way a bit, and I think he'll be 32 this summer now. He's about the age where, for a player who has fallen, whose star has kind of lost its shine a bit, he's the right kind of age, the right profile for a player to come back and light up the league. And it sounds like a bit of a coup there, the manager as well, and coming in Guimarães, Vitória, a relatively good side. So that sounds like better things potentially coming for Vasco. On Vitória, I actually backed them to be the surprise package of the season, so that's gone wrong so far. But as the manager said, I sympathise with them there a bit. I think they have had a bit of a tough start, and there's a long way to go, and they can still come back into it. But it sounds like a good game. Obviously, a big win for Vasco. Is there anything else you wanted to just point out just before we move on to the next game of the weekend?
Not really, James. I mean, like you said, there's lots of time for Victoria to pull up the socks a little bit, but they really need to start doing it quickly because obviously no wins yet. But maybe that first win might just boost them up. But like you said, I think the acquisition of the manager for Vasco might just see them shoot up a little bit, and like you said, better things for to come for them potentially. Because he looks like he's got good stock. This new manager, should it happen, that's it really.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll see. Vasco, big club. Hopefully they can kind of push on a little bit. Let's wait and see if this is the turning point in their season. Well, thank you, George. That was a good roundup. Some interesting tidbits in there as well. So my game was obviously a rearranged one, like I said, but it was a big game nonetheless. Sao Paulo against Fluminense, two obviously massive sides, prestigious sides, and two sides who are on different kind of trajectories at the moment. Fluminense obviously have started the season absolutely terribly. Were badly in need of a win, but not an easy place to go at the minute. Sao Paulo under Zubeldia, they've had a great start under the new manager. And in the end, they were just too much. They came from behind. They were losing with a first half goal. Fluminense a bit of a scrappy own goal, but they came back, and it was actually their fourth win in a row now in all competitions, and that's across, I think, as well the Copa do Brasil as well as the Sudamericana. So 2 straight wins in the Brasileirão and Serie A, but they did get a draw with Palmeiras before that, and I think they won the one before that as well. So they've come back after a really, really tricky start, and they now look like a team who can potentially challenge, definitely for the Libertadores places and maybe even higher. But I think the story of this game really was the picture that I've got behind me there for people who are watching on YouTube. It was a flashpoint just before half time in which the Fluminense coach Fernando Diniz was sent to the stands. It was involving a chap who we've spoken about quite a bit actually on the pod so far. You'll know him, George, as the gentleman who can't finish into a sock. Mr. Luciano Neves.
Yes, of course. Yeah, Neves. Yeah, I've seen something about this, James, but I wasn't too sure of the complete details. So it'd be good to hear a bit more.
Yeah, well, a flu player went down injured, supposedly needing treatment. I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? I don't think he was really injured, but he went down, and the ball went out for a throw-in in Sao Paulo. And Luciano, in particular, tried to get the game going again by, taking a quick throw-in. But Diniz wasn't having it. He kind of marched over and kind of bollocked him, really, and just kind of said, hey, don't take a throw-in, he's down injured. So Luciano obviously hit back, and then a kind of a mass brawl ensued. And from the picture, you can see there just behind me, there's Felipe Melo's kind of orchestrating it, and he was hardly known for his kind of temperament. So if you've got someone like Felipe Melo keeping the peace, then things are bad. But yeah, Diniz was sent off, and it was actually just after the Sao Paulo equaliser. So it was just before half time, and I think it just had an impact, and it spoke to Diniz's frame of mind. Really, I don't know much of his character really, but he doesn't seem like a man who kind of loses his cool too much. But Fluminense have really been struggling, and he just snapped basically. And there was no real need for it. It happens in games. It wasn't anything particularly worth getting so angry about, but he did, and I think that shows just the pressure that he's under and his team are under. And you can understand his frustration in terms of the way that the first goal, that the equalising goal came about. They were relatively, I think, in control of the game at 1-0, and the goalkeeper just makes a real hash of a simple pass. Really, it's played back to him, and he basically just slips and gives it straight to the Sao Paulo player, who then squares it, and he's miles out of his goal, and it's a relatively easy finish. So Denise just snapped, and that kind of, it only felt like it was going to go one way really for Flu from there, and in the end that's what happened. But it was interesting because Luciano and Denise were actually former colleagues. I think in his first stint at Flu, Denise brought Luciano to the club, I think. So they were player and manager for a little while. So the lip readers were on it, looking at this kind of spat, and they said that there was something Denise said something along the lines of, "You're over for me, you're over, it's over." So they asked Luciano afterwards, and he said, Denise came out of nowhere and cursed me. I asked him not to, and he didn't continue. So he didn't continue. Then he said, the friendship is over. If he thinks so, for me, it's over. So, it seems like, I don't know how good of friends they were. I don't think they were that good friends, but, that's is it worth it really, boys? Over kind of a throw in like that.
It just
anyway,
seems... It just seems a bit silly, doesn't it, really? I mean, like you said, it just shows the amount of pressure that he's under, that the team are under, because they're in the relegation zone now, Fluminense, and they're really, for some reason, it's just going horribly wrong, isn't it? I mean, yeah, what can you say? Just snapped. It's pressure.
Yeah, it is pressure. And on the opposite end of that scale, Zubeldia, I think, is having the time of his life. He looks like quite a cool guy, a long hair, quite a chilled out kind of character. And he actually asked after the game, they asked, because obviously there's been a massive uptick in form. They haven't lost or barely even dropped points since he came in. So they asked him, what's going on, and he said something along the lines of he doesn't want to, go too overboard. He doesn't like to use superlatives when he's talking about his team. And he actually quoted Sir Alex Ferguson and said, as Ferguson used to say, when he'd won, he'd said 2 powerful words: "Well done." That's it. So he was taking a leaf out of old Fergie there. So even as great rivals of Fergie, I think we can both say if he follows his path, then he's on to a good one.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that's it, James, isn't it? And like you said, what more do you need to say to the team after they've just won a game, I suppose? And they are doing really, really well. And they play again on Friday in the Libertadores, don't they? So it'd be interesting to see Friday morning how they really early Friday morning here how they get on. But yeah, the real upturn in form, and I predicted them to be a bit of a surprise package. It's looking like that. That might actually become a thing, really. And I don't know what's happened to what's happened to James Rodriguez. He doesn't seem to be playing at all.
No, I don't think it's going particularly well for him. I read that he might potentially be leaving after the Copa America in the summer, but it might not be a coincidence that they've kind of come back into form, having kind of dropped him. I know he wasn't necessarily massively first name on the team sheet anyway, but he's it's not gone well. It's more of a team effort, it seems. But just on Fluminense, I just wanted to pick out the goalkeeper for them. I mean, I know I mentioned there he did make a bit of an error for that first equalising goal, and he got away with one earlier in the game, a really poor clearance that Sao Paulo should have scored from and didn't. He did make a couple of good saves to help them out on the back of making a terrible error. But Diniz likes to play this football as he's seen as a bit of a Pep Guardiola, Brazilian Pep Guardiola. And if you remember when Guardiola came to City, the goalkeeper at the time was Joe Hart, and he immediately identified him as a weak link, as somebody who he needs to replace. And he went and got Claudio Bravo from Barcelona, which didn't really work out. And then in the end, he settled for Ederson, who is obviously probably the best ball-playing goalkeeper possibly in history, really. So, but the goalie for Fluminense is a chap called Fabio, and he's 43 years old. And not that that's really going to make an impact, but he doesn't look suited to that kind of play. He doesn't look comfortable to me anyway. And he has been there a couple of years. He was the goalkeeper for the win in the Libertadores last year. So it's not like he can't do it, but he was all over the place in this game. And to my eye, and we're going to speak on one of the goalkeepers in the league a little bit later on. And to me, Fluminense, perhaps that could be a real difference maker for them. But anyway, yeah, like I said, in the relegation zone now, and they really do need to start picking up some points. And I'm sure that they will, but I had them down as title winners at the start of the season. That's not going to happen. So they need to just make sure they pick themselves up, go strong on the continent, try and get that Libertadores. Not probably they won't win it again. It'll be difficult to do that, but go deep into it, maybe win the cup, this kind of thing. I think they're good enough to do something like that, but yeah, it's not been a good start for them.
Definitely not, no. And yeah, it just seems to be a bit of an attitude problem with some players, don't there? We saw a few weeks ago, some of them got, reprimanded for something that they did. And yeah, I mean, just a question for you on them, James. I know you said they're good enough to do such things, but do you see them, like we saw Santos, big team Santos, get relegated last season? Do you see it being terminal, this sort of bad form for Fluminense? Do you see it getting worse before it gets better for them?
I mean, nobody really predicts these things. I don't think anybody would have said with Santos it would have gone the same way, but I think Santos were on a bit more of a slide. I don't think Flu are in that position. I think they've got, even we saw this week, we should mention before, since the last pod, they've announced that they are bringing back Thiago Silva as well on a free transfer. So he will help. I mean, he still was playing in the Premier League and playing at a good level in the Premier League, even at 38 or whatever he is. So he will help 100%. I don't see them going down. No way. I think they'll even be still in the top 5. But if you look at it, a couple of wins and they're back up there. So they just need to arrest it and turn it around quickly. So, but never say never. You don't know. I mean, Thiago Silva came into a Chelsea team. I mean, he won the Champions League, but then he's been part of that team that's done so horribly badly over the last couple of years. So who knows? But no, I don't see that, to answer your question. But anyway, they're the games of the week. 2 good games amid only 7. But yeah, 2 good games and 2 big ramifications, both at the bottom end of the table. Fluminense might be battling off with Vitória for relegation. Who knows? But no, I don't foresee that. But anyway, let's get on to the awards, George. So as ever, we've got 3 awards to hand out: the Player of the Round, Goal of the Round, and Young Player of the Round. So the Player of the Round this week was quite easy to choose in some ways. And it's a first for the Talking Brazil Ball podcast because we've actually gone for a goalkeeper. So I lamented Fabio there for Fluminense, but the goalkeeper that we've gone with is almost 20 years younger than him. And George, I know you're a fan of him.
Yeah, it's 24-year-old. Hey?
I'm guessing, I don't know you're a fan of him, but I'm guessing you are after this performance.
Yeah, well, absolutely, James. He was, he well deserved the Player of the Round. Like you said, it was a little bit slim pickings, really. This time, 7 games. There weren't any real standouts, but I think it was fair to give this man his props, really. 24-year-old Bento Krepski, who has, if I am correct in my knowledge, James, been on the Friday being announced as one of Brazil's Copa America squad in the team as one of the, I think they've got 3 keepers, is it, in the squad. He was one of them, and then he pulls out a performance like he did against the holders Palmeiras away from home, saved that penalty. Like you said, it was 0-0 at the time, important time to save the pen. Clean sheet. What more can you want from a goalkeeper when he's called upon? So he gets it, and looking like his stock's kind of rising now, James, to be honest with you. I think we've mentioned him before on the pod. I think Chelsea, you said Chelsea maybe are interested in him. And yeah, but a good week all told for him, and tops it off today with the award, which I'm sure he'll be delighted about.
Well, I think if you asked him, in order, what would be the kind of the highlights of his week, it would probably be, the Copa America, whatever. He's been called up before, and 2 calls up before, saving a penalty against Palmeiras. He's happened. I'm sure he's saved penalties before, but winning the Talking Brazil Ball Player of the Round, that's never happened before. So that'll be a big moment for him, I'm sure. for him. Whenever he's listening, I know he was probably watching the Copa America announcement with his family. So I don't know whether it's a similar situation. He'll be listening in for the pod when it's released and listening to hear that he's been the man selected. So no,
Yeah, that's
all
it.
jokes.
It's a prestigious award for him.
Yeah, it is the Jean Carlos Award. So he was called up. He was obviously part of 3 goalkeepers, and Brazil have been struggling a bit over recent years to find. I mean, they've got 2 amazing goalkeepers. Obviously, my man Alisson is for me still the best in the world. Ederson, like I say, is ridiculous as well up there. And then they've always had kind of Weatherton as a backup, and he's getting on a bit now. So Bento looks like the next one off the rank, really. Both Edison and Allison are in the 30s now, and which doesn't mean they can't go on for quite some time. But Bento's only 24, like you say. Great age for a keeper. Great age for a move to Europe, I would say. I think Allison was around about the same age when he joined Roma. Edison, I'm not sure. I think he was possibly about the same age when he joined Benfica. Yeah, so it's a good age to go. He's been there as a youth product. He's played, I think, 160 odd games for Paranense. So his experience for them. He's a leader in that team, and I think it's the time is right for him to make that jump. And yeah, it's just a great display. I mean, it is worth noting before somebody points it out to us that he did give away the penalty that he then saved, but it was a bit unfortunate, really. He made a great point blank save before he dived at one of the Palmeiras players' feet, and he kind of just took them down, but rectified it, got up and saved the penalty from Vega, and he did make another really good save during the game as well. So I think I said it last week even that Paranense, we talked about them being a possible surprise package, and I think I said that if you've got a top goalkeeper, you are going to surprise people because you should concede goals. And if you have a keeper that stops you conceding the goals, you're going to be higher than you should be. And I think in this game alone, there was an XG of 2. If anybody puts any kind of stock in that, Palmeiras had an XG of 2. So they should have scored 2 goals. The penalty, obviously, is quite high in that. But they didn't score at all. He kept a clean sheet. So that's impressive. And it's actually his 4th clean sheet in just 6 games in the Brasileirão this season. So he's really looks like a really solid and an interesting keeper, really, and I'm sure it won't be long before we see him in Europe.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said it would be, James. Like you said, if he keeps pulling out performances like that. He played against England, didn't he, at Wembley not too long ago in that friendly game as well. So exactly. So people are going to start noticing, particularly if he's playing against England, because eyes are on that as well, aren't they, at Wembley? So fair play to him. Like you said, gave away the penalty, but it almost makes it even better that he picked himself up and saved it. So didn't let that phase him. Picked himself up, saved the pen. And Paranense are flying. And under Kuka, I know we don't want to touch on the games too tough, but they're going unbelievably well. Palmeiras really struggling now, and I think Ferreira's under a little bit of pressure there. Got a yellow card again, must have, been a bit fractious maybe on the sidelines again, but you can understand it. They're just not pulling the weight, really. And Vega, again, missing the pen. I think the fans are a little bit frustrated with him, actually, as well. So he's not had a good start to the season, and Palmeiras haven't at all as holders. It's been pathetic, really. And they really need to bring themselves up. They haven't been scoring many goals at all, and it's been a real disappointment from them.
Well, we looked last week, I think it was as well, about where the goals are going to come from, and they need a proper striker. They need someone who's going to get them 10, even 15 goals. I think Hendrick was the top scorer last year, and he only got 11. And obviously he's going. I mean, watching the highlights, there was some unbelievable work from Hendrick in this game. He really is a top player. He's just so silky, just glides past people. You don't know what he's going to do. He just seems to evade tackles, but that doesn't put the ball in the net, does it sometimes? And they are struggling, and you have to assume that for all the good that Ferreira's done at Palmeiras, he is under pressure for sure. I mean, I think if I remember rightly, I don't think they started too dissimilar last year. I don't think they were flying. I think they kind of crept up a bit, but that almost might work against him if they think, well, it's the same thing's happening again. But Either way, we talk about Flu having a poor start, and Palmeiras are in exactly the same boat, but slightly better off. I think the 3 points better off. But then again, they're only 5 off the top of the table, which is of course Paranense. If they'd have won this game, they would have been above them, but they didn't. And Paranense continue just to go from strength to strength. This is on paper the hardest game they'll have all season away at Palmeiras, and obviously they've turned them over. So fantastic for them, and it does look like, backed by Bento, that they might just be able to hold on to that top spot and go even further.
Well, it's worth noting as well, James. We're down to 10 men for like the last half an hour of this game as well. Just after they scored the second goal, it was an own goal. Then the fella Esquivel, the left back, he got himself sent off for a second yellow card. So they had to play, and I think they had a goal disallowed from our man Canobio as well. So yeah, they're really looking good, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they progress, because like I'm a bit of a fan of the manager, really. So
yeah,
let's see how they go.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, so well done to Bento Krepski, who wins the Player of the Round award, and like George says, tops off a quite fantastic few days for him, really. And we wish him all the best celebrating his award this evening.
Just a word on the Copa America, James, as well. It's not related at all, but I don't know if you saw Jesse Marsh has been named the Canadian manager. Are they in the Copa America?
I'm not sure, actually. I think they
don't
might
know
be.
Yeah, but he's been named. I think it was last night at some stage. So fun and games with him.
Well, yeah, like you say, if they're not in the Copa America, then it is absolutely unrelated. But
well, there you go.
Good luck to Canada. So goal of the round. Let's move on. And this one was kind of debatable. There was a couple of relatively nice goals. I think we were spoiled in the opening rounds because last week wasn't a great selection, and this week again wasn't an amazing selection. But there were a couple to note. It was very close between two goals. Thomas Pochettino for Fortaleza and Mateus Pereira for Cruzeiro, who both got quite nice finishes from outside the box. I also liked a chap called Faciano's goal for Bahia, who was a really nice, he took like a back heel flick through his legs and then turned on it and finished it all in one movement. It was a really nice goal. But yeah, we were trying to decide between Pochettino and Pereira, and George, you've got the honour of letting the listeners know which one we eventually plumped for. It was tight.
It was tight, James. We've gone for Pochettino in the end. I think it just shaded it because I kind of liked the build-up play a little bit by the fella Breno Lopez, who kind of turned his man, cut in field a little bit and sprayed the ball out to Pochettino. I think he sort of takes the ball into the box and just smacks it. He just whacks it in the net from quite a distance, really. It was just a nice finish, really, overall. So he gets it. Also, I've noticed we haven't really, I know it doesn't matter, the goals are scored by whoever they're scored by, but we haven't really touched much at all on Fortaleza as a team at all in the pod. I don't think we've spoke about them once, actually. So, yeah, it was a nice goal, this one. But Mateus Pereira, we fans of the Championship and the Premier League will have remember him from his West Brom days. Only 2 seasons in West Brom, but it was a lovely goal that as well. Just touch on the edge of the box, then curled it into the bottom corner. But for me, Pochettino, he gets it. He wins the award this week, and it was well worth it. There seemed a lot of headers this week, James. A lot of headed goals this week, really. So, but like I said, it was slim pickings, to be fair.
Yeah, there was another header from Danilo Barbosa, who's a previous goal of the round winner for Botafogo, which was in this game as well, and he's level with the top scorers now on 3 goals. So nobody's really scoring a lot. But yeah, it was a nice one, this Pochettino, just a kind of, he just hammered it basically. I thought the keeper could have potentially done better a little bit at the near post, but sometimes you have to just say it's a great strike, and the build-up play was good. And you're right, we haven't spoke about Fortaleza at all, really, and this was a good result for them. And I think they're one of those teams. They remind me, I mean, this is based on not a lot particularly, but they remind me of kind of Crystal Palace in some ways, that they seem to be in mid-table. They just seem to be mid-table more or less every year, and they just hang in there, similar colours to Palace. Obviously, Palace are flying at the minute under Glasner, but they're still going to finish 13th and 14th, I think. So Fortaleza seem to be in that kind of bracket of team. But yeah, Pochettino, we should mention, because I did have a look if he is a relation to Maurizio. But he isn't. He is an Argentine, but he is no relation to the Chelsea manager. He's 28 years old, second season with Fortaleza. That's the first time he's played in Brazil. So yeah, I don't think there's. I mean, Fortaleza are one of those teams. It seems like there isn't that much to say on them in some ways. We are going to look at them next week, actually giving it away early on, but we are going to look at them as a game of the round. So we will touch on them a bit more deeply then. But yeah, for now anyway, it's, I think, the first award to a Fortaleza player, a good goal, and one that will go into the end of round raffle, the Talking Brazil Ball raffle for the goal of the season. It'll be in there, and it probably won't win, but it was a nice goal nonetheless, and a worthy winner this time.
Yeah, it was a nice goal, James, wasn't it? And like you said, he came through at Boca Juniors, didn't he? But I think Fortaleza play them on Thursday morning, really early Thursday morning. They beat them at home. Can they go away in the Copa Sudamericana and beat them again? Let's wait and see. You say about them being mid-table, it's exactly that, James, to be fair. Over the last 4 seasons, they had a really good season in 21. They finished 4th. The last couple, they finished 8th and 10th. Obviously, they're 11th at the moment. So yeah, it's a mid-table team, really, like you said. Not a great deal, from the outside looking in to say about them, really. But Vojvoda seems to, let's see if he can pick them up the table. But it was a lovely goal, that one by Pochettino, and he's won it, like I said, this week.
Yeah, and on Botafogo, no wins in 2 now. They started really well, but they've just started to ease off a bit. But they are 4th, I think, 3 points off the top. So this was, not a bad point for everybody involved, really, in that sense. So that was a goal of the round. Thomas Pochettino, well done to him. And moving on to probably the most exciting award this week, I would say, which is often the case, the young player of the round. And the last couple of rounds, we've seen a very clear winner, and this week sees a very clear winner as well. And it's nice to see, actually, because before the season, and even just generally, there's 3 or 4 big talents who are being hyped up as potential movers to Europe and as players who can make an impact in there. One's obviously Estevan Willian, who won the award last week, been brilliant with Palmeiras. Another one is Wesley Gassova for Corinthians, who won it the week before with a lovely double. And Luis Guilherme, as we've spoken about as well, at Palmeiras, who's been doing well. And the 4th one is Loran from Flamengo. And Loran is our winner of the Young Player of the Round this week, and for very good reason. George, do you want to introduce this 17-year-old gem and explain why he's been given the award this week? I think you touched on the preview, didn't you? I think you spoke.
I did speak about him, actually. Yeah, I remember speaking of him as one perhaps to watch, James, and it looks like it's, coming to fruit, that sort of prediction. Obviously, it wasn't just me that predicted it. By the sound of it, lots of people predicted it, so I can't take any credit for that. But yeah, Loran, 17-year-old, 4th of July is his birthday, coming up to 18, in not too long. 4th of July 2006, James, is when he was born, which is crazy to think, isn't it? But and he's scoring goals and assisting goals in Brazil right now. It's amazing the amount of opportunities that these clubs give to the players that are so young, like this lad. It was his first start, I think, in Serie A this season. And he's gone and done that, and it was fantastic to to see. And I think from our point of view, James, watching it and giving out these awards for the young players, you're kind of always hoping that a young player does something, that is of note, isn't it? Because as we've said before, we're difficult to watch the games over here, in full. So we're kind of relying on who's going to score, who's going to assist goals and things like this. And he's not just assisted one, he's scored a goal as well. He has scored in the past, I think, for Mengo, just the one before actually, and that was in the local competitions. So it's his first ever Serie A goal in his first start. So fair play to him, and it was a lovely goal as well that he scored. Really nice slotted finish in the second half of the. Yeah, it was nice. The assist was just one way, just basically passed it to Pedro and he finished it off. I don't think it was anything particularly special, but again, he's got himself in that position, and he's people are going to start talking about him. I don't know if they are already, James. I don't know if you've seen any reports on him or anything like that.
Well, I saw some a while back. Well, it wasn't that. It was a couple of weeks ago that Liverpool were actually keeping an eye on him, but I don't know how reliable that was. But if the scouts were in attendance here, they would have been impressed, because I think the assist was. I mean, it wasn't anything special. It was a nice little slided ball past the defender. It wasn't just a sideways pass. I mean, Pedro did a lovely drop of the shoulder and finish. It was all his goal, really. But he was in there. He was taking responsibility and playing the ball in. And then the goal was really well played. I mean, if Liverpool scouts were watching, they'd have loved it, because it was kind of counter press, nicked it off the defender, laid it into his teammate. I think it was your mate Gerson, and then he squared it, and it was a really nice slotted finish into the corner. So he just plays with such confidence, like they all do, these prodigies, and like all the prodigies as well, he's got his own celebration already. I think it's kind of a one hand on the hip and one kind of holding like an invisible orb. I don't know if it's one of these anime things or something, but he stands there with one hand on his hip and one kind of holding like an imaginary orb. So that's quite cool. I think Hendrick's got like a gorilla thing coming, and they've all got their own celebrations. But it's part of the brand, isn't it? But
yeah, a lot of them are into their anime, aren't they? The younger players seem to be into it.
We saw Dom Solanke pull out a mask, didn't we?
Yes, this was interesting, because it's a bit of a favourite on the pod, isn't it, James? We spoke about it before, the sort of masked celebration. We were trying to think of some. And he's gone and done that, didn't he? Was the goal disallowed, though?
Solanke's? No, I don't think so.
Was it not?
He definitely scored one.
Yeah. See, I don't know what the anime character was, but it was like an orange kind of circular thing with a hole in it, wasn't it? I don't know where he was from, to be honest. But yeah, we see it more and more and more now. Obviously. Enrique wanted it for Botafogo recently, didn't he? He pulled out a mask as well in his celebration. So, yeah, fair enough. You can do what you want to do, can't you? I didn't see that one actually from Loran. I'll have to watch that again.
Well, I think it's if you see the pictures of it, he stood there. It's not anything amazingly impressive, but I guess with celebrations, it's hard to be kind of unique with them. But it is kind of unique. He stands with like one hand on his hip, the other out in front of him, pretend to hold a ball, and he looks kind of quite like regal. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, that Solanke one, I think that was the best mask I've ever seen. It was a real kind of thick one. It's worth checking that out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, Loran is one to watch. Apparently, he's a humble, quiet character as well. After the game, he was obviously the game winner, set up one goal, scored the other, but he apparently went home. You spoke about Paye before, saying they were doing it for the mothers. It was Mother's Day, I think, over the weekend in Brazil.
Right, so that's why he probably spoke about it as well, yeah.
Exactly. So Loran actually apparently went home. His mum was throwing a party back in his neighbourhood. Apparently it was her birthday and Mother's Day at the same time, so double celebration. So Loran shirked all of the perhaps more lavish parties and went back home and had a barbecue with his family. So seems like a grounded young man, and yeah, he's again another really, really worthy winner and one to keep a close eye on. And like I say, there's some real talents this season, and we've already seen kind of the best of some of them. So Flamengo, a really good win for them. Corinthians had roared back a bit, but Flamengo were comfortable winners here, really, and they're up to third, 2 points off the top. They're quietly, doing the business, while other big sides, are kind of faltering a bit. But a young player of the round goes to Laurent. Well done to him. But I just did want to mention Corinthians, just on that, and I specifically wanted to mention the goalkeeper situation because we've spoken about it in the past that Cassio has been dropped, and I've seen that Cassio is now pushing to leave Corinthians. He's apparently got an offer on the table from Cruzeiro, and he's thinking about it. Corinthians apparently do want to keep him, but he is looking to leave, I think, unless things change. And he doesn't seem to be agitating particularly or causing a stink. He's basically saying that his presence there as a backup now on the bench is causing the standing goalkeeper Carlos Miguel anxiety, and it's putting pressure on his performance. And if you watch these highlights here, I mean, something's not right with his performances. Carlos Miguel, the goalkeeper, he looks all over the place. He playing balls into the opposition, shaky with his hands, just all over the place, flopping at stuff. So I'm not sure quite what's happened with Cassio, but this guy, Carlos Miguel, is not the answer. But it does look as though Cassio will be moving on. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to mention on Corinthians. So we'll keep an eye on Cassio and see where his future lies.
Yeah, it's interesting that having played for them for so long, and he's just kind of unceremoniously just been kind of dropped and put out the team. But maybe it's a conversation that they've had privately, and like you said, an offer on from Cruzeiro, maybe he goes there. So yeah, like you said, we'll just have to keep an eye on that. That'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, we will do. But anyway, so yeah, young player of the round, goal of the round, player of the round, all sorted. Let's look ahead to next week, George. So the game week will soon be upon us. It does seem to come round quickly. So I'm just going to ask you again. We've got a truncated fixture list. Like I said, only 7 games once more. Do you just want to run through those quickly, and we'll let the listeners know what we're going to be focusing in on for the next week's show?
Yeah, absolutely. And that'd be again. It'll be another pleasure of mine to do that, James.
Go on then.
Oh, well, I was waiting for the music, to be fair. So Saturday the 18th of May is the 8 o'clock kickoff. English time is Vitória needing a win against Atletico Gio. Massive game at the bottom there, to be fair. Then also on Saturday evening, 10:30 English time, Fortaleza are at home to Atletico Paranense, who of course are leading the division at the moment. Into Sunday morning, then really early Sunday morning in England, Vasco da Gama play Flamengo at 1 a.m. on Sunday the 19th of May. 3 p.m. are all around in England, and Criciúma, who didn't play in this week gone, are at home to Palmeiras. 8 o'clock Sunday evening English time, Galo play Bahia. Galo back in action as well. At the same time, Corinthians host Botafogo. And then on Tuesday the 21st of May, midnight English time, Sao Paulo face Cruzeiro, which wraps up, like you said, James, another small game week in Matchday 7.
Yep, that's it. Fantastic. So, some big games there, like you say. Very big one at the bottom of the table. But we've decided not to focus on another relegation battle this week. So, as I mentioned earlier on, we are going to stop neglecting Fortaleza, and we are going to look at them next week. As George said there, they've got a big game at home against a table-topping Atletico Paranense. So I'm going to look at that one. That's I can't remember when you said it was, but it's Saturday or Sunday.
Saturday night, 10:30, James. Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. Oh, maybe not too late to watch that one, so I'll do that. And George, you're going to cover Sao Paulo against Cruzeiro, aren't you? 5th against 6th, two teams who are doing pretty well actually. Who maybe are a little higher than they might have thought they might be after the first couple of games. So that should be a good one. What do you expect from that?
Yeah, I mean it'll be a fascinating game, won't it, James? Like you said, I mean they're both doing pretty well. Maybe a little bit not expected in some ways, definitely from Cruzeiro's point of view. But Sao Paulo, like we've covered with the manager Zubeldia, they're on a high, aren't they? So. And also Cruzeiro got an important win against Gio, didn't they, over the weekend? Like we mentioned, Mateus Pereira. He seems to be a little bit of a catalyst for them over recent games. So they're both doing well. It'll be fascinating to see who can, get the upper hand in this one and push towards the top of the table. You've got to say the winners of this game will push on towards the top. I mean, the top is fascinating because it's teams at the moment, early days, that you probably wouldn't expect. And James, your predictions aren't sort of a bit upside down at the moment, with Fluminense in the relegation zone and Bahia are right up at the top. So yeah, it's interesting to see how these things pan out. Obviously, we didn't mention Bahia at all, really in that one, but they got a good win as well over RB Bragantino. So interesting, to see what goes on and how those teams match up against each other.
Yeah, the teams probably next season I'll do the predictions. They'll be hoping that I tip them for a poor season because you seem to have given Flu the kiss of death. And yeah, Bahia are seemingly out there to prove me wrong. They've really started I don't know who they're playing this week. Who did you say they've got this week? Because I think Paranense have a real chance to cement their position. I mean, Fortaleza, like we said, doing all right, but that's a chance for them to go there and go, up to 16 points. But Bahia are matching everybody all the way so far. And I think still for me, Bahia's aim will be to stay in the league and not to be sucked into the relegation battle. So any points they get now will work towards that, basically. I don't see them being up there. But, they're not winning amazingly convincingly. But yeah, 1-0. Bragantino were doing all right at the start and they seem to have dropped off now, don't they? So who have they got this week, Bahia?
Well, hopefully they'll lose Bahia because they're playing my team, Garlo, James, away. So, teams don't play, do they, because of the postponement games, and then they're playing. Obviously, Garlo didn't play. They were supposed to play Gremio, I think, over last weekend, and it obviously got postponed. Obviously, the postponed games, just to run through them, Fluminense at home to Juventude, Cuiabá are at home to Inter, and Gremio were supposed to be playing RB Bragantino. Like you said, all of them games are being called off. So, yeah.
Well, I think the bad thing for someone like Cuiabá, and in that sense, Fluminense, I mean, Cuiabá didn't play this week as well, did they? So they've gone now 2 weeks and they haven't picked up a point yet. So that can't be doing them any good. Fluminense need to bounce back, and obviously they don't have a game at the weekend. So they're going to be put under pressure because teams might start going ahead of them. For someone like Cuiabá, teams are going to get out of reach very quickly, and it's always better to have points on the board, I always think, than games in hand, especially if you're at the bottom of the table. So it's not ideal for anybody, but like we said, once again, it is it's necessary, it seems, at the moment, and it's not for nothing that they're being cancelled, and obviously there is still that kind of phantom that the whole season might just well be postponed, and then it doesn't look like it's going to happen, but there is still that possibility if things worsen, which we hope they don't. But anyway, that's looking ahead to next week. And just before we end, George, I know you like to run through the table, don't you? So if you want to run through that, and then we'll play that nice music again that everybody can sing along to at the end.
Well, absolutely, James. But just a point before I do that, you mentioned about Cuiabá and not playing last week and not playing again this week. But in a way, it's so good that they've got a packed schedule in other competitions, because Cuiabá playing the Sudamericana on Thursday morning, really early Thursday morning here, against Peruvian side Deportivo Garcilaso. So at least they've got, at least they're playing games, and it's not just like one a week they're getting cancelled. From their point of view, at least they're keeping up with the match fitness by playing in the Sudamericana and the Brazilian Cup and things like that. Because I think that's coming up again. I think that's coming up again soon, actually, is the Brazilian Cup. So, it is next week, I think it is. So they've got Goiás of Cuiabá. So, at least they're playing in some capacity is the point I'm making.
It might also help them later on in the season. We know there's a lot of games. Teams get tired. Maybe they'll be a bit fresher. But anyway, let's get the table done. You want to run through that one? I'll get you nice rock music on it.
Right. So at the top of the league, there's Atlético Paranense on 13 points. Another surprise at the top at the moment is second is Bahia, also on 13 points. In third on 11 points is Flamengo. Fourth to sixth all have 10 points. It goes Botafogo, Sao Paulo, then Cruzeiro. 9 points, Galo in seventh. Also on 9 points in eighth is RB Bragantino. And then ninth is Palmeiras on 8 points. 10th is Inter on 7 points. Also on 7 points in 11th is Fortaleza. On 6 points in 12th is Grêmio. Also on 6 points in 13th is Vasco. 14th to 17th all have 5 points. It goes Criciúma, Juventude, Corinthians, and then into the relegation zone. Disastrously at the moment is Fluminense on 5 points. 18th and 19th, both on 1 point each, Vitória and Atlético GO. And bottom of the pile, although, like we said, won't play for some time by the look of it, is Cuiabá. Played 4, yet to score any points, James. They sit bottom of the table.
Cool. Yeah, looks shaping up nicely. Lots to look at, lots to be surprised about, lots to dig into, and another week ahead that we're going to enjoy and look at those 2 games and everything that follows with it. So that wraps up the show again for another week. I'm going to play this music as we fade out. So this is the Talking Brazil Ball theme song. So we'll leave you to listen to this. And until next time, shout it out loud. Adios.
Adios. See you next week.
Passion from every town. Let the world be filled with love tonight. Sway to the beat, make you feel so right. Summer vibes, we're dancing in the heat. Go, go, go. Candy beats up in Brazil, go spreading love in every way. In the sound of paradise, we're here to stay.
Oh. Oh. Was that the end? That was the end, wasn't it? Was that the end, George? Yeah, well done. Okay. Cheers, everybody. See you next time.
See you next week.